Are we good, Mr. Rogers? Okay.
Yeah.
Financing state and local government by Miguel Rios, William Romine, and myself.
Sources of California revenue. California receives income from several sources. It receives money from taxations. Sources that it receives its revenue can be things such as personal income tax, sales tax, corporation tax, motor vehicle fees, highway user taxes, and insurance taxes. The tax revenue, where does it go? The tax revenue goes back to the community in order to grow as a community or city. So the taxes go back to the roads and to the highways.
So this is a picture, just like of in speaking in general of where the taxes go. I know it's not like a very good picture, but if you want to go like and to see it, there's, I believe on page 741 you can see, and there's a graph there, and it tells you where the taxes go and which one receives more tax revenue and stuff like that, and it goes into better detail instead of this. So this is just something, and like there's like 8% that goes into corporate tax, 5% other, and like the biggest fund revenue is the personal income, which is 65%.
For the state of California.
For the state of California, yeah, this is here in the state of California.
So most of their revenue, you're saying, comes from individuals who are taxed on their incomes.
Yeah. Limits on raising revenue. California earns around $100 billion in revenue per year. Nearly 90% of that comes from taxes and fees.
In state and foreign commerce, the law states and regulates that you are not able to tax on any imported or exported goods.
Can you give an example of what that means or where we might see that in action?
Like, if California was like importing some, like let's say, because we grow a lot of produce here, and let's say we just want to charge somebody else extra just to ship it over to them, that would like kind of put them, that would make us seem kind of shady a little bit, just raising the prices a bit, you know, so they can get like a certain good.
So you're saying the state of California cannot tax anything that's leaving, nor tax anything that's coming into the state?
Well, like a ridiculous amount. Like it has to be reasonable.
So they can or they cannot?
They can't.
Anything?
No.
That is correct.
The federal government and its agencies. The federal government doesn't have many laws or limitations against taxes in each state. However, the few that it does are extremely important.
14th Amendment limitations. Both the due process and the equal protection clause place limits on the power to tax at the state and local levels. The due process states that taxes be set and given fairly. The equal protection clause does not allow states to tax for illogical reasons.
So you think it's okay to, I mean, if you're supposed to, in the 14th Amendment, not to tax people, it should be the same. Why is it that we have a progressive tax structure where people who have higher incomes are taxed at a higher percentage?
Because I think that they are more, they're bringing more income and they're actually able to afford to tax. And they're actually.
But that's not the point of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment is to make sure that everyone's treated the same under the law. Due process. Isn't that what you just said?
Well, yeah.
So how is it you can justify violating the due process and charging some people a higher tax rate than others?
Because it's like at a certain percentage. Like some families don't make as much, so it would hit them like more or less the same, like taking their income.
Right, so my question is, how do you justify doing that? I understand what you're saying with the progressive tax. People who pay more are better able to handle a higher tax rate. But you just told us about the 14th Amendment, which said that you cannot treat some people differently under the eyes of the law than others.
Well, at least what I believe is they're treated exactly the same. They're just earning more money, so they should be able to give a little bit more. That's just.
State limitations. Although each state constitutions are different, it must include the limits for taxing. However, there are some policies called tax exemptions for different nonprofit groups. Some organizations that are exempt focus mainly for religious, charitable, scientific, or hospital purposes.
The principle of sound taxation. If one certain tax was a total revenue for the government, the taxation system would be extremely unfair. This is the reason why there are many forms of tax.
The budget process. Until the 1920 state budgets were very unorganized and just centered around legislator. Because of this, many organizations would ask regularly for funds from the Legislative Appropriations Committee, which often and ended in harsh competition.
However, state budgets are very different today. They are highly up-to-date and very organized. California is one of the 47 states that have adopted the executive budget. The executive budget gives the governor two vitally important powers. He prepares the state budget as well as administer the money that the legislator grants him.
Steps of creating the state budget. The directors of departments and agencies heads gather estimates for the upcoming fiscal year. The Department of Finance reviews the estimates and fixes any wrong estimates. On January 10th, the governor sends the proposed budget to the legislator. The legislator looks over the budget very thoroughly and makes sure that they have enough funds to act on it. The governor overlooks it one last time and can eliminate or reduce any last-minute budget details.
That's it for chapter 4.